Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the studio this evening. This evening I am keeping with my summertime theme. I'm going to paint a nice, cool, refreshing glass of lemonade. Here's the picture I have chosen. I've done a quick drawing of it. There it is. Got a couple of issues, a couple of things that are going to make this a little bit difficult for me in particular. The lemonade is very light, especially up here and down here, and oftentimes I do get a little heavy with my colors. I recognize that. I've got this white ring on the lemon that's in there. That's going to be a bit difficult, but we're going to have some fun with this. I am using my Graham paints here. They are. Here's my color card. I'm going to set that up to the side as I use a color from over there. I'm going to let you know what that is. Let me turn the paint cam on here real quickly. There it is. I think we're pretty much in there, something like that. I'm going to be using some of my favorite brushes. I've got a couple of squirrel mop brushes. This is the one I'm going to probably be using the most. This is a Da Vinci squirrel hair brush number 4, and if I need to do some other kind of work, I'm going to be using, I've got them all laid out here just to the side of me over there. These are my silver black velvet brushes. And let's see, I've got water up there. My paint is over there. I've got towels here. With that, I think we're ready to roll. I'm going to set my reference photo off to the side, and let's see how I'm going to do this. I'm gonna grab my squirrel hair brush here, and I'm going to go into a little bit of this Hansa Yellow. This is a cool yellow, and I'm going to get a nice little bit of that out. Here it is. And I'm going to start, actually, this is probably a little too cool. I'm just going to toss in just a little bit of this gamboge to warm that up just ever so slightly. And I'm going to paint, well, basically everything here, coming up from the bottom. And do I need to do it from the bottom? I don't need to do it from the bottom, but I am as yet undecided really how to do the ice at the top, and so I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up, and we'll see what happens when we get up there. And also, if when I get up to the top up here, I put some paint on and I think it's too heavy or I don't like it, well, then at least it will run down to the bottom of my painting, because I have my entire desk at a bit of an incline. Hey, Jennifer, how are you? Let's see, a little bit more here, and I'm going to just put a little bit in, kind of like this. I think that will do for us for right now. So this is going to be a bit of a trial for me. I've got a couple of things to think of. Hello, Christina. I've got a couple of things to think about after I put this first layer of color on. So I need to get, well, maybe I should move this into the center so we can all see this. I need to get 3 lemon wheels in here. I've got 2 drawn on here because the third one in the back really isn't much more than just a blob of shape. It's a little bit darker and a little bit warmer than the surrounding lemonade. But I've got to do this one and this one a little bit differently because I can see the peels in there pretty distinctly, and I need to make sure I can get them distinctly into my orange. I'm making orangeade. No, into my lemons on my painting, but yet be soft enough around the edges that it doesn't look like it's a hard something, because we're looking through a piece of glass here and also through maybe just a little bit of that lemonade there. So got to worry about that, and that concerns me a little bit, but we're going to tackle that as best we can. Let's see, I think I've got that back in the center so we can all see it. There we go. I do. And so now that I've talked enough, I think what I'm going to do is grab a little bit of this is going to be my first go around at this, a little bit of my gamboge. I've got too much water in there and not enough paint. A little bit of my gamboge, and just while this paint is still just ever slightly damp, just draw that rind in. And I know it's going to bleed a little bit, and I'm a little okay with that. I'm just hoping that it doesn't get too crazy and get a little too out of control. I do want, that orangey yellow look to it. But I'm using, I guess I didn't say the paper I'm using. Once again, tonight, this is Daler Rowney paper. Daler Rowney, am I saying that right? Yeah, Daler Rowney paper. And it is wood pulp paper. I had a big pack of it. It's 18 by 24, and I don't know how many sheets were in it. About 15 sheets probably. And I took it and cut it into quarters. So this is a quarter of that sheet. And so I could use it to make more paintings with, thinking that I got a good deal on buying all of those, or buying one larger pack of paper instead of lots of smaller packs of paper. I guess the jury is still out a little bit. We'll see if it's a good deal, if at the end of this pack of paper I'm still liking it, because if I'm not, then it wasn't a very good deal. Okay, so now I can go ahead and put the inside to these lemons in, and I'm using a slightly cooler color of yellow than I used for that rind. And there it is. And I'm going to warm that just ever so slightly, maybe not quite as much as the rind on this, and put in, let's see, it's somewhere around here. Put in a bit of this lemon in the background. This one doesn't have to have too much shape. The only thing is in the front, I need to do just a bit of negative painting to define that front lemon, and I'm okay with that, like that. Hola, Titohuli. I don't know if I got that right. I don't know if I'm even close to that. Hello, welcome to the studio this evening. Okay, and I'm going to leave that as a base. I'm going to start with that. While that's drying, I'm going to switch over to one of my silver black velvet brushes. I've got a bit more control with that, and I'm going to do a little bit of painting on my straw. Now this straw has, let me move it to the center, we can all see it. This straw has dots on it. We can do it with the dots or without the dots. I'm not really worried about that. I think what I'm going to do is just mix up ever so slightly a bit of neutral tint. And neutral tint is one of those middle gray colors, like Payne's gray, like Davies gray, that is almost in the center of our color wheel, but instead of being on the blue side, like Payne's gray, the blue side of the color wheel, neutral tint is more towards the red. It's a bit purplish. Maybe I need a little bit more here. And I'm just going to paint a line down the side and then blend that out so that we get a nice round straw, or roundish anyways. Roundish looking. Let me darken this up a little bit. The neutral tint that I'm using is, what paint am I using? I'm using M. Graham paint. I lost track for a moment of what I was using. I'm using M. Graham paint, and the M. Graham neutral tint doesn't lighten quite as much as the Payne's gray does when it dries. It does a little bit, but if you've used Payne's gray, you know that it really, when it dries up, it really lightens up. Neutral tint, not quite as much. And there we go. Just a little bit of the straw underneath the lip of the glass here. I have the camera way back so you can see both the reference photo and what I'm painting. Somebody tell me if it would be better if I zoomed in just so you could see the painting, or if you want to see the reference photo also. I can zoom in a little bit if you would like. And while we're figuring that out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a little bit of Payne's gray with a little bit of, I've got this blue already on my palette. It's actually a little bit of turquoise, but I want it nice and runny, but a little bit on the blue side. Okay, it's good. Jennifer says it's good as it is. I'm going to take your word for it. I want this a little bit on the blue side because I'm going to start to come in and paint some of this glass. And I want it to be nice and blue. The reference photo, it's pretty gray. But I just used the neutral tint. But I don't like too much gray in my paintings. I don't think it detracts from your painting a whole lot. I don't think it always adds a whole lot to your painting, and so I try not to put too much in my paintings anyways. I'm just going to draw in a few of these lines where the screw down top would go on this. This is a mason jar glass or a ball jar glass if you prefer that. And I apologize, I keep turning it to the side because it's so much easier to do a pull stroke and get the color where you want it than it is to do a push or go sideways. And I'm trying to get it relatively close to where I want it. All right, and already that's starting to look like there's an actual screw down portion on the top of this, on the lip of this, without doing too much there. I did put a little bit of pressure that maybe I shouldn't have on that side. I'll live with the consequences for that. If you guys have any questions of me about this painting or any other painting, art in general, life in general, how I paint, why I paint, please feel free to throw that question out there. Part of the fun of doing the live video is interacting with everybody and answering questions and spreading watercolor love. That's the way I look at it. I enjoy it immensely, and I want others to enjoy it. So if you've got a question that I can answer that might help you with your watercolors in some way, or that you've always been curious about, please throw it out there. I am happy to answer that question for you, or any questions for you. It doesn't have to be just one. Okay, I've got the top of that on, and you can see where it's starting to look like something you could twist down, and it definitely looks like a straw that's going in there. So what I think we need to do is strengthen some of the colors down here for our lemonade. And I'm basically going to do a glazing technique with that. This feels pretty dry. It's not completely dry, but it's close enough. Have I drawn or painted all my life? The answer is absolutely not. I've told the story before, and I'm happy to tell it again. I was looking for, well, this would have been, I'm trying to think what the date would be. Well, this would have been in maybe the early 2000s. I was looking for a way to unplug from my digital life. I was on a computer all day at work and was just looking for something different to do when I came home that was maybe not on the computer. And I didn't want something that was going to take an hour to set up and an hour to tear down, and I didn't want to have to do a lot of work to get ready to do whatever I was going to do. You know, I've done a lot of woodworking, but woodworking, you need a lot of space, and then you've got to go out and get wood, and then you got to clean up afterwards, and there's a lot that goes along with it, and I didn't want to bring a lot with me. I wanted something I could set up quickly and take down quickly, and if I wanted to leave it where it was, that's fine too, but whatever I was going to do wasn't dependent upon that. And I worked at what at the time, I'm not there anymore. I'm not in that area anymore. At the time was the local university, and I went over to the art department and asked the guy if he could make any recommendations on some paints, and he said sure, he'd help me out. He'd get me all set up. And I talked to him for a while, and he sold me some paint and a couple of paint brushes and a pad of paper. And I went home and started painting. And the rest, as they say, is history. No, I was painting little tiny pictures, maybe 2 inches by 2 inches, and enjoying it because, as I said, well, I guess part of my enjoyment was that it was mine. At the time, I wasn't very good. Some people would say I'm not really good now, but I could take, my own sense of pride in what I was doing with those. And I would paint those and maybe spend a half an hour or an hour at night. Really, most of the time it wasn't very long at all. But it was something to get away from my normal workday life and not have the TV on, maybe have the radio on, but not necessarily. And just something I started to do to kind of break away a little bit. And then I started to date the woman who eventually has become my wife. And, I showed her, and she thought some of them were pretty good, and encouraged me to keep going with it. Oh, and about 5 years later or so, we were in the town where I'm living now. We were here on vacation, and there happened to be an art festival in one of the local parks, and we were at it, and we were walking through, and I started saying, well, I can paint that. I can do that. I'm better than that. And I think that she got tired of me talking about it and said, if you think you're better than that, do it. Stop talking about it. And I kind of, at that point, had to either put up or shut up. And so I decided to put up a little bit. And I started painting a bit more. I started hanging stuff in my office. I would do my paintings at my work during my lunch hour. And people that I work with started coming by, and they would say how much they enjoyed them, and it just kind of grew from there. And they started saying, well, can I put one of those in my office? And I said, sure. Can I, I've led groups of people trying to learn watercolors at my work, and they asked me to do that. 4 years ago, I started this YouTube channel with not really a whole lot of expectation of what would happen with it. And the whole thing is just kind of built and built and built. I don't know that I'm any better today. If you were to ask me if I'm a better painter today than I have been in the past, but I'm much more consistent with my painting, and I still thoroughly enjoy it. I really like, I love this interaction. This forces me to talk about how I paint and what I'm painting and kind of my thought process as I'm painting it. And believe it or not, it probably helps me more than it helps you guys if you're trying to learn to paint watercolors. But if I can pass along some of my love for watercolors as I'm doing it, then I think I've done a good job. And that's it in a nutshell. That's how I got to be painting on YouTube. And So to answer your question, after a really long and winding story, no, I haven't been painting and drawing my whole life. It's only been, 15 years, 17 years, something like that. Not very much. Hey, Cynthia, how are you? Good to see you again. But I have no plans on stopping. I got a little bit of paint down here. Probably I've put my arm in here at some point. I have no plans of stopping or slowing down. I enjoy it so much, and I want other people to enjoy it also. So I'm keeping with it. Okay, so here's the basic cup of lemonade or glass of lemonade. Actually, let me bring this in because it looks like there's a weird shadow on here. Give me 1 second. There we go. And this actually kind of helps me out a bit too. I can put this in the center. And thank you, Don. Thank you very much. Okay, so I can look at this, and it's not too different than our reference photo. I've got a nice couple of wedges here. They can easily be made out. I might want to come back in with a little white and put in it's not rind, the center, the white stuff in the center on this one. Would I ever... Oh, Cynthia, would I ever consider painting pansies? I'll get to you in 1 second because I have kind of a funny story for you, Cynthia. This I'm kind of okay with. Maybe, let's see, I think maybe I'll come back and darken this up and this rind up just a little bit. But what is bothering me a bit more than that is I just darkened around the edges here. And this cup still looks pretty flat to me. Oh, look, I did a bad drawing. I drew this goofy. I didn't really notice that. Let's gloss over that. It still looks pretty flat to me. I think what I'm going to do is let this dry just a little bit more. And I'm going to come back in with a little gray or blue, something in here to try to push this back just a little bit. And I'm going to hope that that helps to make that look more round, less flat is what I'm saying to you. Okay, Cynthia, you are going to maybe laugh. Right, look. Oops, maybe that way. I've actually got a few here. And I've started on them. I don't want to show too much. I've started on them. It's just a practice. So they're going to be coming up. Okay. So let's see what I can do here. I'm going to get a little bit of this Payne's gray. And I don't know what this is going to look like with yellow. Well, that's not so bad at all. It's a little green-ish, but not so bad. And, you know, I should have used that on some of, that's a nice warm gray. I should have used that on some of the ice cubes. That might have been really nice. Let's see if I can't get a little bit of this on here. And let's see what this looks like. I will tell you, Cynthia, to continue with my story of my watercolor painting, that I have tried, I think, every style of painting imaginable and found most of them pretty unappealing. and I say that, I should say that a little bit differently. For me, as I'm trying to paint in those different styles, either something just didn't work for me, or I'm not doing something right, and I struggled and struggled and struggled, and I'm not getting it. I'm not getting something. So you can go back and look at my paintings, and since the beginning of this year, I think my paintings, well, that may not be completely accurate from the videos you see, but because I had some videos that I recorded earlier that I didn't put up until this year, but the paintings that I've done this year, I think, are drastically different than the paintings you will have seen me do in the past, or would have seen me do in the past. I kind of came to the realization of what kind of painter I am and what kind of painter I want to be. And so what you see from me now are a lot more paintings like this, where it's a simpler subject. You know, there's a lot less going on with this, and I still don't try to do a photorealistic copy. I don't want to duplicate, this per se. I want to make my interpretation of this, and as such, I've learned how I can do it and how to paint how I see. And I think my painting this year has gotten to be a lot better than it has been in years past. The question is, do I have a favorite subject? Do I have a favorite subject? Well, if I do, I'll have to think about that. If you ask my office mates, I'm sure that they would tell you it's probably seagulls or something along those lines, because I do paint a lot of seagulls. I've tried to paint the things that are in and around where I'm at. That doesn't necessarily mean I can only paint something I see, on the California coast or anything like that, but if I want to paint a seagull, I've got 40,000 seagulls within a mile of my house that I can go and see. So I think they would tell you that, but I like rusty stuff. It's the old, rusty stuff. I think it's so interesting. I don't paint as much of that as I used to, and maybe I should paint a bit more of it, but I like old, crusty things. I think they're really neat. They have a lot of character and patina, and I think one of the things that I really like about them is you can paint them right and you can paint them wrong, and you can tell anybody who wants to call you on it that, if somebody wants to tell you you painted something wrong, you can say, no, this thing is old and it's just a little broken, and it's right. That's the way it's supposed to be. And nobody should be any the wiser or able to say, no, that's not right, because you've done it, and that's right. Okay, so let me pull this in. My lighting is a little funny in my studio, or not with my studio, with my camera anyways. When there's a lot of white light on bouncing back into the camera lens, everything grays out a little bit. Okay, so here we go. Let's take a look now. I've got some definition on some of these ice cubes here, right? A little bit of form on those. And because this darkens up a little bit around the edges, maybe it doesn't look totally, you know, like it comes up like this, but it definitely looks like it has a shape to it that it doesn't look like, or it didn't look like it had before. So that's a good thing. And one other thing we need to do for sure, well, we're going to do a little bit with these lines here. I'm going to put a little white on here for a highlight and a little white here. But I have started putting backgrounds on things now. It's really satisfying to paint the things you enjoy, even if it's not perfection. No truer words have ever been spoken. It's so nice. You know, lots of times at night, instead of feeling like, oh, I have to paint a landscape, or I have to paint a seascape, or I have to, I don't know, paint Dory. Haha. Ta-da! Dory. I have to paint something. I just come in here, I find a picture. I've got a stack of reference photos that I use. And I'll just flip through and pull one out, whatever I feel like painting that night. Something will grab me and put it down, draw it out, and do it. What is my feeling? Cynthia says, what's my feeling on using primary colors to make black or using lamp black for black? I think lamp black is great to paint lamps with. Lamp black is just so dark. I think that for me, I don't do a whole lot that needs to be quite that dark. I don't have a problem with lamp black. I don't have a black in my palette. Let's see. Here's my palette. You know, I've got Payne's Gray, I've got Neutral, I've got Sepia. There's no black. If I need to make a dark, I will use really thick Payne's Gray, or I will try to put neutral with, that's, you know, purplish. It's a lot of blue and red. I'll try and throw a little bit of yellow in there and try to mix my own if I need it. It really depends upon what I'm painting. I should say, I have used this palette a lot in the past, and this is my, who are these guys? Holbein. These are my Holbein paints. This is the set of 24. And if you look carefully in the black, I have used quite a bit of that black and mixed it in. In fact, there's a little bit of black in whatever this color is that I'm mixing. So I use black, but not, I don't usually use a lot of black. And if I do, it's really just for toning a bunch of stuff down. So I'm probably not the best person, the best person, Cynthia, to answer that question for you. I mean, I can answer it for you as me. I'm not wild about it, but I don't hate it. I'm not going to be one that goes, oh, you can't use black because it's cheating or it's whatever. I don't buy that for a second. Just like it doesn't bother me when people use white watercolor either. If the great masters had white, they would have used. In fact, John Singer Sargent used quite a bit of white in his paintings, and nobody seems to say that he was doing something wrong because he's John Singer Sargent. Let's see, I'm just going to do, this is the way I'm now doing backgrounds. I haven't been shamed into doing backgrounds, but I want to do backgrounds that aren't just, you know, a solid color or whatnot. Yeah, I say that as I'm painting a solid color. That's not what I meant. I am painting a solid color on here, but I'm not painting the entire background of this a solid color. And I think by leaving this little bit hang out, boy, if I could draw a straight line here. Here's a tip for you. If you need to draw a straight line, hook your pinky on the edge of the paper and just pull right along with it, and you'll get a nice straight line, usually, if your finger doesn't slide, all the way down. So, like I was saying, this is how I'm doing my backgrounds now. I think it makes it just a little bit more fun and a little bit more interesting if whatever subject you're painting might stick over the edge just a little bit. And it doesn't have to do it on both sides. I've done just a tiny bit at the bottom of this glass down here, and just a tiny bit of the straw at the top, or the straw at the top will be sticking out if it's not quite yet. And I should say I'm just using a tiny bit of turquoise, which, if anybody is going to ask me, is my favorite M-gram color. It's just such a cool blue color. Not a cold blue, a cool, interesting blue that I like. And a bit of cobalt blue mixed in there to tone it down just a wee bit. Oh, that's gone and done it. Now I've got a line over a line. It's called, oh, hang on a minute. This is called what? That's called breaking the frame. Oh, breaking the frame. Oh, I didn't know that. I just thought it was kind of a neat thing to do. It's called breaking the frame. Okay. Thank you for letting me know that, Christina. I appreciate that. Now I'll know. Now I'll be able to walk into work and go, oh, well, I was breaking the frame. And my office mates, well, they'll tell me I'm nuts like normal, but at least they'll learn something. I don't know. I shouldn't say too much. My office mates are really pretty spectacular. I got lucky. They got the raw end of the deal. I got really lucky. And I think I went over this, and I shouldn't have gone over this. And now I'm chasing some wetness here. And the solution is more wetness. Without getting this too dark on one side. There we go. If we can keep the whole thing wet, we don't have the problem. Meanwhile, I'm flipping this all around, and you guys are probably trying to do handstands, trying to see how I'm doing this. Is the video stuttering for anyone else? Yes, you know what? It's stuttering here in the studio also. I don't know why. I thought I have gremlins in my studio, and they often don't want me to paint. And so some nights it works fantastically and I have no issues whatsoever, and some nights it gets a bit goofy and I have all kinds of issues. And it looks like tonight is going to try to be a bit goofy. So I do apologize for that. Short of climbing up the telephone pole and hooking directly into the cable or telephone wire or however that comes into our house. I don't know that I can do a whole lot more for it. I'm just going to have to suffer through it, or we're all going to have to suffer through it. Okay, and so I've got one other thing we really need to do here, and that is, well, I guess we got two things, but I can't leave this like this because I've got a see-through jar with white here and a blue background. So I need a really wet mixture, light, and I need to go on the inside of this, and it needs to be light. It can't be the same color as the background. It's got to be the same color, but not the same intensity, because of course we're looking through the glass to see that. And there we go. I got a big bit of a drip right there, which we can take away with no problems. All right, I'm hoping that the Wi-Fi is, well, I'm not on Wi-Fi. I'm hoping that the video is going to catch back up and it's going to get better again. I see it jumping around again for me. I'm going to paint it just ever so slightly darker on this side. I've got a straw there, not too much. And I said I was going to put a little white on here. Oh, and my white just does not want to work with me. It's really dried out. All right, we got a little white here. So I'm going to, oh, I need it more intense than that. Draw in the center of that lemon. And I want to make this highlight through here nice and white. I know that that lemonade is pretty pale to begin with, but I want this really white through there. Okay, that's better. What else do we need to do? I think we're getting close to it. I can't come back up and do my lip up here anymore. It looks okay. We've got some texture to, not texture, some roundedness to our mug, glass, or glass. Whatever you're going to call it. I don't know why I can't think of what it's called right now. I think I'm just going to, I can't not futz with this a little bit, so I'm going to see how dry it is. It's dried pretty quickly. I want to draw just a couple of other lines on this. And I've got this pencil line here. The pencil line is bothering me just a little bit. So I want to cover a bit of it up. I bought some new pencils to draw with, and they happen to be quite a bit softer than I was expecting that they would be, and as a result the line comes out just a bit darker than I really wanted it to. but that's okay. We can make it work. I'm just going to put another bit of paint on here. Cynthia, you think landscapes are my best? Really? I've liked some of my landscapes, but I don't know. I appreciate the compliment. I certainly take it as a compliment, but I'd never have thought that they were one of my best. I think I do boats pretty well. I've done a lot of boats. I do like painting birds. I don't know, I think if I do any more on this, it's going to be mostly just futzing with it and little changes here and there. I'm going to stop before I do too much of that because I will probably just ruin it. I'll keep playing and keep playing. I'm going to try to know my limits and stop well within them. If you like this painting and can look past the struggles with the video, hit the subscribe button down below or off to the side, and like this video. I do have a website, Watercolors with Michael. I'm building it out. It's very new. You can go there and see some other things that I'm working on more than just the videos. I do have Instagram and Twitter. Links to those should be down below. An Etsy shop I have out there. And that's about all I've got for you tonight. Thank you for stopping by to see me paint another one of my summertime favorites. This time, a nice, cool, refreshing glass of lemonade. And thanks so much. Bye-bye.